Our family came here in around 1919. It was just after World War I. We had an uncle who was badly wounded, and they came here with the great-grandfather, and they bought this land and just continued to buy parcels and add to it. Sold other land, obviously, wheeled and dealed, until they ended up with a substantial acreage here. And the three brothers worked that, mainly with sheep, predominantly sheep, and to pay for the land, they paid £2.10 for it. They cut down a lot of the red gums. My grandfather said when he first came, basically where we're standing here, he said you could nearly walk to the mountains on the tops of the trees. And you can see by the gaps that are there now how many are missing. But no, they took out off 3,000 acres. That was a starting point, and each of those trees was called a log. And out of those trees, they averaged around 1,000 super feet of wood. Some of them were huge, up to 3,000. Some very big trees. And they used that to pay for the farm. Oh, yeah, the trees were carted off here. They had 8 different teams pulling. There was 4 teams of bullock drays and horses. There was also a couple of the old original steam tractors. Took them all the way down to Cavendish from here. That's about 10 kilometres. And down at the sawmill, they were cut up specifically for what was required. And they were then put on the trains and transferred from there into Hamilton. A lot of the bits and pieces, the rougher bits, and they were used to run the generators, to run the power for the local area. But the bulk of the wood went down to Melbourne, and it became the foundation blocks, if you like, for the pavements and the roads down in Melbourne. They laid them down and poured the bitumen over the top of them. And they're still there now, and people are saying when they dig them up today, they're as good as the day that they were put in. Most of the trees here I bet they'll be around 200 to 300 years old. We've got a couple of big fellas down there. There's one with about a 10.5 metre around the base. He's a huge tree, and they couldn't cut him down. He was too big for them back in the 1920s. During the war, they cut up a lot of the remaining mill heads, and they used them for charcoal burners. And the charcoal burners were here for 3 or 4 years over the World War II, and that was a prerequisite. We had no fuel, real shortage of fuel. They were a little bit dangerous. The fires were going all year, but not too many got away, Grandpa said. The dangerous ones were, of course, the charcoal burners on the back of the vehicles themselves, waltzing up and down the roads. But that was a good way of clearing up the mill heads, because the rabbits were under them as well, which were a major problem right back through there. Yeah.